What's up, Cordell? How you doing?
What's up? What's up?
How you doing this beautiful December day?
Well, we're back again, another podcast edition.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a prank or it's a real thing or what, but there's monoliths have been popping up around
Oh, the monolith phenomena.
Yeah, what's up with that, Cordell? You seem to know a lot about that. I don't know too much about it.
Let's take the story back to November 18th in Utah. A helicopter reported a monolith in Utah out in the middle of nowhere. And so people went out there, folks, and they found it. It was about 10 feet tall, a metal structure.
They never set the weight, right?
Right. They didn't see the weight. And you know, and
that's important though.
Oh, yeah, sure.
If it's really heavy, it's difficult to carry out there. And if it's light, it's easier to put it out
there. Oh, yeah,
so.
Sure. Hey, well, a couple days later, it disappears. And there's people that took pictures with it, actually hiked out there.
They had to use a vehicle or at least a donkey or some shit to carry
a donkey has something to get
That's
out
what I was
there.
saying about the weight. I mean, there have to be some kind of tracks, footprints, or some shit leading away from it, right? When they took it.
So what happened next, that triggered a craze around the planet where they started turning up. Next was Romania. You might have heard of in Pittsburgh, outside of Grandpa Joe's candy shop. You know, and that one was fake. He made that one out of plywood, and he finally copped to it. So
one here in California just popped up.
We'll get a little more into that one in a minute. I wanted to investigate to see who was putting up these monoliths, because I remember there used to be a famous artist back in the day named John McCracken, and he built monoliths, and he would put them inside artist galleries. He was doing it as, you know, some type of artistic statement in nature, and he would have exhibits, but he passed away. So people questioned his son. He goes, no.
There's copycats for even serial killers, right?
Yeah, right. And so it turned out that they solved the mystery for the Utah one, at least. And it was called the Most Famous Artist Collective, which is out of Santa Fe, New Mexico. And they took credit for that. They said, yeah, we put it out there.
Wait, don't tell me. Now he's selling these things.
Yes, sir. You got it, my boy. And they're selling authentic alien monoliths on their website. Okay. You know.
How are the authentic alien? Does ET brings them to your house?
Yeah, I bet on a drone or something brings it to your house. Well, and they weigh a lot. So what I can tell you about these things, a monolith in Megaliths and Obelisks, you might have heard those words, for these big stone structures or metal structures.
Explain the three for people who don't know.
Sure. You know, like you might have seen in Washington, D.C., the Washington Monument, the tall one.
Monolith, yeah.
Right. It's actually metal.
And those are all over the world.
Yeah, they're all over the world. That one is actually metal, stone on the outside. But a true megalith or monolith is one solid piece of stone.
Like ancient from the
Yeah, you'll see them a lot in Egypt. And
Mexico too.
Yeah, in Mexico. And it's a craze. Back in the day, there was a fascination with them. And so you'll see them in a lot of capitals around the world, in Europe, a lot of different places. They would bring them back from Egypt. In 1820, England was gifted a monolith or an obelisk from the country of Egypt. And it took them 58 years just to build a boat big enough to transport it back to England. It weighed 200 tons.
What?
This giant stone structure.
Oh, okay, stone structure, okay.
Yeah.
And where does it preside?
It's in Thames right now.
Okay.
So
but guess what? Now, if you want.
Yeah, you can see it now. But just to get it back, 6 people died. The captain had to cut it loose off the ship.
That's nothing.
And another ship
They're in
found
the Panama Canal. I think like thousands died.
No. Yeah, we watched that documentary about that. That's what I'm saying, my boy. So this fascination with monoliths, it goes back. Why, you ask? People claim to have electrical value. I know they have acoustic properties. You know, I have a degree in sound engineering, and I've seen and tested.
Shape, right?
Yeah, it's like a tuning fork. You knock it and it makes a sound, and you got a couple of them and make a sympathetic vibration. And so there's a lot of things that go on with it. But what we're going to talk about is more of its biblical role. And I say Bible, and I'm like, yeah. There's 2 books that we can mention right away that you can get on Amazon. And the first one is by Tony Sutherland. It's called The Obelisk and the Cross. And it talks about the ancient relationship between those obelisks and Christianity and crucifixes. And another book is, we talked about in another episode, that's QAnon.
Okay.
And where they talked about taking the kingdom of Christ by force. Mm-hmm. You could also get that book on Amazon.
Or anywhere they sell books. Not that we're plugging Amazon or anything.
Barnes and Nobles. Right.
I don't think they exist anymore.
That's right, my boy.
There's not that many bookstores, so I guess they're going to be forced to go online.
Well, you know, there's a couple verses in the Bible. There's Matthew 16:24 and Hebrews 12:2. And it talks about a word Stauros, which means pole or pillar. And it deals with the crucifixion. Some people will say that Christ wasn't crucified on a cross, but actually like a pole.
You're saying that they would steal these monoliths and they would make them into crosses.
Yeah, well,
then they would use them to crucify people on them, right?
Well, there's a whole history of the relationship between the Crusaders in Egypt and monoliths in Christianity. And them stealing them and putting up crucifixes or taking them back with them to Europe or destroying them. And it deals with the Templars.
Did they believe they had some mystical powers or something?
Sure. And even you might have heard of Dracula. His name was Vladimir Shepes.
That's in Romania, right?
Yeah, in Romania. And his kinfolk is Prince Charles, went there and made a documentary about it.
Monolith in Romania, right?
Yeah, they found a monolith in Romania, my boy.
There you go. There's a connection.
And he used to crucify people on stakes or pillars. It wasn't on a crucifix, it was on a pole. So, with that, we fast forward to what happened last week, where those young kids stole the monolith from Pine Mountain up in California.
They did it live on their social media, right?
Yeah, on DLive, they streamed it. Now, we'll get a little more into that, how that happened. So, this story starts when 4 local artists team up to build a monolith. They were inspired by the one in Utah, and they thought, hey, let's do something like that. So they built one, and it weighed 200 pounds. They carried it 2 miles up a trail.
A lot of weight.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight.
For 2 miles. 2 guys?
It was 4 guys.
I used to be in a fire camp, and I used to carry a chainsaw, and we used to go on 2-mile hikes, and you would carry it on your shoulder, and the chainsaw doesn't weigh 200 pounds, and I would feel that crap.
Right.
And your shoulder would be sore.
How old were you when you did that?
16, 15.
Well, these guys are about 50 years old each that carried it up there in the middle of the night, this 200-pound steel sculpture to plant it.
They were committed.
Yeah, there were some committed artists. Well, guess what? Some kids heard about that. And these kids were into this quasi-Masonic Templar QAnon stuff. And they got a itch up their ass, and they went up there in the middle of the night, and they tore it down and made a video. Posted it up on DLive. I checked it out because you told me about it. And so we did a lot of research on this, and it's a wild story. And they called it Monolith Raid. And they went up there, and as they were tearing it down, they started chanting, making chants. Christ is King, America first.
So-called alien obelisks and more of the cross right here. Because Christ is king of this country. We don't want illegal aliens from Mexico or outer space. So let's tear this bitch down, come on. Let's go, boys. Christ is king! Christ is king! Christ is king! Christ is king! It's like bolted down right here. America first! Alright, what do we got here? Hold up. Now you just pull it out.
Here. Oh, here, let me try to push it over the other way.
Yeah, we're gonna have to dig it out.
Yeah. Wait.
But some of the more funny things they said was, we don't want illegal aliens from Mexico or outer space.
E.T. go home. They're fucking insane, dude. Like,
Dude, they even called the monolith gay.
and then here's the thing: if outer space, aliens would come to Earth, they would fucking have the luck to run into these assholes.
Right.
Instead of someone that's actually, hey, welcome, and oh wow, let's learn from each other's cultures. It's gonna be some jerk like this. It's gonna start shooting at them.
Well, and the funny part is, it reminds me of a Stanley Kubrick 2001. You remember that Space Odyssey, and all the monkeys are dancing around the thing? That's what these guys look like. Just dancing around this monolith, screaming at it, trying to tear
Wasn't
it
there
down.
also a movie called Caveman with Ringo Starr? Did they have a monolith in that movie?
I don't know. I'll have to check it out.
I kind of have
But I know there was a Simpsons episode where they make fun of Stanley Kubrick and Homer Simpson's, at knocking the monolith over, just like these nutballs.
Well, they're ahead of their time. The Simpsons always predict stuff.
So, after the guys knock the monolith down to the ground and replace it with the crucifix, they were even going to light that crucifix on fire, but they decided not to. So they tried dragging this monolith down the mountain, and at a certain point, people started coming up the mountain and made noise. And the little kids chickened out and ran away. And later on his D Live, the dude had the nerve to say, like, yeah, you know, I would have been down to fuck him up. I was down for shit. But my homies had to go to work in the morning.
Yeah, at his top modeling job, he didn't want to get his face messed up.
Oh my God. And now, you know, the kids
What a fucking pussy.
The kids are wearing MAGA hats and stuff, and they're caught up in this ideological LARP. And this ain't the first time that people have torn down a monolith to put a cross. Even though they're 16, they don't know that.
Well, you got to remember, they were stealing Bigfoot statues. We talked about it in one of the past episodes.
Oh, dude, well, there's a lot of memes already.
Don't steal anything.
Well, there's a lot of memes out there about monoliths and Bigfoot. They go together.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole nother episode, another rabbit hole to go down, but you know. But here's the good news. So the city of Tuscadero said, no, we like that monolith. It actually brought a little humor and joy in this situation that we're all in.
And it brings tourism.
Yeah, so they put it back up.
Because people want to get pictures.
Yeah, they put the thing back up yesterday, and this time they put it back up right. And they made a video putting it back up. And, you know, here's the sad part. Those young kids, everything they were doing was parroting things that they've learned from adults or websites.
You know what? In the old days, you have a lot of evil in the world, but they couldn't come together.
Right.
The internet is bringing all these people together.
I checked out their stream, and as they were streaming, some of the comments were funny. They were telling because the dudes at first couldn't knock it down. And the homies in the live chat were saying, hey, drop kick it, run and drop kick it. They had a lot of homies that kept saying, drop kick it. But finally they got it down. And once they got it down, a homie in the comment section said, hey, you should take that to the scrap metal yard and sell that for meth. So that just tells you the kind of people that are watching that stream. And then here's where he fucked up though. He said, we should have lit that cross on fire, white power. And then he started chanting racial slurs.
Well,
so they can make that a hate. That could be a hate.
Hey, a cross and a cross on fire are two different things.
That's right.
Putting up a cross, you're just religious. Once you set that shit on fire, you're a racist.
If there wasn't a history of thousands of years of people doing this, then we could just say this is some young kids doing vandalism or blah, blah, blah. But these kids have an ideological belief. No, and it's sad. It's
There's a
sad.
lot of hate in religion. I see a lot of hateful people in religion that support hate, and they're supposed to be religious.
Well, that's the thing. If Christ standing for love and redemption,
Well, they wouldn't let him in America first off because he's an Arab.
right? Yeah. He was dark
Let's start
skinned.
there. So that's the end of the story. Boom.
Boom.
Mic drop.
And with that, folks, remember to subscribe and like. Tell your friends. Audio Missile Podcast.
You are listening to the Audio Missile Podcast.